But Republicans refused to act on that legislation, which prompted Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid to call out Republicans for trying to crash the economy for their political benefit. As Reid said last week to reporters, "You have heard, as I've heard, that there's a battle going on between Cantor and House Speaker John Boehner as to whether or not there should be a highway bill." Cantor, of course, I'm told by others that he wants to not do a bill to make the economy worse because he feels that's better for them. Well, I hope that's not true, said Harry Reid. Well, it is true, and now we have proof. Here's what the politics editor at Business Insider, Michael Brendan Doherty, on this weekend on Real Time with Bill Maher, just came right out and said that he had been told by a senior Republican senator that they had planned to block all legislation that might improve the economy. I'm paraphrasing here, that might improve the economy between now and November. So there you have it. Republicans won't do anything this year except wait for the economy to tank. And here's the bigger picture with regard to all of that. The question of the day: have Republicans committed treason, sedition, or just conspiracy to destroy the lives of millions of working Americans so that they can make President Obama a one-term president? Here's why I ask. When Louise and I first moved to Washington, D.C. 2 years ago, there was this very fancy, expensive restaurant on the back side of our apartment building, right across the street from the FBI headquarters. More than once, we walked by on the way home from doing this TV show and watched as senators and congressmen and their lobbyist buddies walked out to black SUVs or limousines. It was called the Caucus Room Restaurant. And according to a new book by Robert Draper, that was where a group of Republicans put together a plan to destroy the Obama presidency literally on the day it began. As Draper notes in his new book, Do Not Ask Us What Good We Do Inside the U.S. House of Representatives, quote, "The dinner lasted nearly 4 hours. They parted company almost giddily. The Republicans had agreed on a way forward, show united and unyielding opposition to all the president's economic policies, begin attacking vulnerable Democrats on the airwaves, win the spear point of the House of Representatives in 2010, jab Obama relentlessly in 2011, win the White House and the Senate in 2012. Newt Gingrich was there. So too were most of the prominent Republican members of Congress, including Representatives Eric Cantor, Paul Ryan, and Kevin McCarthy, Senators John Kyle, Jim DeMint, and Tom Coburn. And Frank Luntz, Republican pollster and Fox News employee, was there as well. They all sat around a square table, perhaps that very one. And at the end of this was on the end of planning the end of the Obama presidency on January 20th, 2009, Obama's first day in office. It was the day he was sworn in as the country's 44th president. Draper noted that Representative Paul Ryan warned that everyone, quote, had to stick together. Representative Kevin McCarthy chimed in saying, quote, "We've got to challenge them on every single bill and challenge them on every single campaign," end quote. Frank Luntz being there meant that Fox News was almost certainly on board for this treason or sedition or whatever it is, and their coverage since then seems to back that up. As Newt Gingrich said after the dinner, "You will remember this day. You will remember this as the day the seeds of 2012 were sown." They drew up a national suicide pact, destroy the republic and the middle class, at least economically, and blame it all on Obama. Because of 30 years of Reaganomics and George W. Bush's disastrous presidency, 2 unpaid-for wars, an unpaid-for Medicare drug benefit, deregulation that led the banksters to crash the world's economy, the nation was already in free fall. When these 14 men met, the economy was hemorrhaging 700,000 jobs a month. People were losing their homes from coast to coast. College graduates couldn't find work. Wages were collapsing. People couldn't make their mortgage payments. And millions were losing their health insurance because of the Bush crash. And they wanted to keep it that way for 4 more years. And thus shift all the blame for that pain from Reaganomics and Bushonomics onto Obama. To do that, they had to make sure that Obama failed to get anything of substance through the House or the Senate. Congressman Pete Sessions, after the meeting, told the National Journal that they were launching what he called, quote, "a Taliban insurgency," end quote, against Obama. And that's just what they did. Over 200 pieces of economic recovery legislation, from laws that would have ended outsourcing, or at least reduced it dramatically, to laws that would make the rich pay their fair share of taxes, all shot down by Republican filibusters in the Senate. Even though Democrats controlled the Senate, Senate rules allow a single senator to put a secret hold on a bill, effectively killing it. Senator Tom Coburn alone, one of the participants at that meeting at the Caucus Room Restaurant, did this over and over and over to prevent any Obama successes. Withhold on bills that funded the FAA, funded highway repairs, funded veteran benefits, funded food safety, funded health care for 9/11 responders, funded a new Smithsonian Museum about women's history, funded a 9/11 memorial, funded bike paths in cities all over the nation, funded wildlife protection, on and on it went. Republicans now say Obama, quote, controlled the House and the Senate for 2 years, but it's a lie. The men from that meeting at the Caucus Room restaurant controlled the legislative outcome, even sabotaging Obama's stimulus and Obamacare, so that instead of becoming strong progressive programs, they became essentially giveaways to big banks and health insurance companies. They were so successful that federal spending has increased year to year under Obama at a lower rate than any president since President Eisenhower. And, you know, actually, this goes back to Eisenhower. Growth was really fast under Truman with the war in Korea, and really fast under FDR. So you could say this goes all the way back to, you know, logically to Hoover. This was not the president's idea. It's the austerity program that the men who were in that meeting have forced us all into so that they can crash the economy, or at least keep it bad. So the question, what do you call it when a small group of Republicans gather to intentionally sabotage an entire nation just so their party can win political power off the pain of working Americans? Is it treason? Is it sedition? Or is it simply the most corrupt, evil, and petty sort of politics this town has seen since Newt Gingrich shut down the government and threw millions of Americans out of work because Bill Clinton made him fly in the back of Air Force One? I report, you decide. You can register your opinions over at TomHartman.com or on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And we'll report later in the week what you think.